will be available to view online now and in the future. Please be aware that this meeting is being transcribed only for the purpose of producing the minutes. This transcript will be deleted once the committee approves the minutes. The transcript should not be downloaded by anyone other than Democratic Services. May I remind members that as per statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by the members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as members of the viewing public viewing the meeting. So can I ask that you all please keep your cameras on for the duration of the meeting. We welcome the use of Welsh language at meetings. I have had no requests for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Members in the chamber, please be aware that we are all on camera and that you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking, and please remember to speak clearly into your microphones. Members participating remotely, can you please refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raise hand icon to indicate when you want to speak. Please remember to keep your microphone muted when you are not talking. And now we will move on to the agenda. Number 1, attendance and apologies. Jade, do we have any apologies, please?
Thanks, Chair. Only apologies from Councillor Evans.
Chair, could I just, I note that Councillor Watkins has her raised hand, and I think that's just to let everybody know that her camera isn't working properly. She has let everybody know. Unfortunately, technical difficulties are meaning that she can't be seen. But we know that her microphone is working, so it's just to let the meeting know that that's the reason why you can't see her, you can just see her background. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Declarations of interest. Members, do we have any interest to declare? I can't see anything. So we move on to item 3, review of the Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle age limits and signage requirements. Robin Gray, could you please present your report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll just bring up the report and share it for everyone, so it can be seen as I go through it. If you just bear with me. Okay, hopefully that can be seen by everyone. So yeah, thank you, Chair. This report follows on from a matter that was considered by the committee at its meeting on the 17th of July 2025, and it relates to the age limits of licensed vehicles and also signage requirements. As the committee will be aware, the council has responsibility for the licensing of Hackney carriages and private hire vehicles, and it needs to ensure that the vehicles are safe and suitable to carry members of the public. The vehicles also need to be clearly identifiable as licensed vehicles, but the council has discretion over how it achieves that. There must be a distinction between Hackney carriages and private hire vehicles, though, to avoid a private hire vehicle being confused with a Hackney carriage. And the reason for that is that Hackney carriages are licensed and insured to apply for hire, so can pick up from taxi ranks or be hailed on the street, whereas private hire vehicles are only licensed and insured to undertake journeys that have been pre-booked through a private hire operator. The council's policy on the administration and regulation of Hackney carriage and private hire licences, so the taxi policy, sets out what the council considers to be suitable vehicles. It refers to the size, design and colour of vehicles, as well as age restrictions for vehicles and signage requirements, and those have applied since the policy came into effect in January 2013. Paragraph 3.4 of the report sets out the current age restrictions for vehicles. So it says that a vehicle must be under 5 years old when it's first licensed. A vehicle licence will not be transferred if a vehicle is over 8 years old. Any replacement vehicle, be that a permanent replacement or a temporary insurance vehicle, must be under 5 years old when it's licensed, or if it is already licensed by the council when it replaces another vehicle, it can be under 8 years old. And then it goes on to say that a vehicle licence will be renewed until the vehicle reaches 10 years old, when the vehicle must come off the road unless it's a specialist vehicle. But in accordance with the policy, after the vehicle turns 8, the licence will only be renewed if the vehicle has been inspected by an officer and it is deemed to be in a very good condition. The signage requirements for private hire vehicles set out in paragraph 3.5, so that the requirements include that the name of the private hire company that operates the vehicle must be displayed permanently on both sides of the vehicle in letters not less than 15 centimetres tall. The telephone number of the company must also be displayed on the vehicle, and this requirement ensures that a customer will know what vehicle, the customer will know when they're getting into a vehicle that it's from the company that they contacted to book the vehicle. As for the vehicle to be insurance to be valid, the journey must be pre-booked. So if a customer was to get into a private hire vehicle that hadn't been pre-booked, the insurance may be void. So the signage all helps to kind of clearly show to the customer that it's the correct vehicle from the correct company and therefore is appropriately insured. So those are the current vehicle age restrictions and private hire vehicle signage requirements as set out in the current taxi policy. At the committee's last meeting on the 17th of July, a number of requests from the taxi trade to relax the age limits and a request from one private hire driver and also a vehicle proprietor to remove the signage the private hire vehicle signage requirements were considered. Those requests received from the trades are again included in the report. The report says Appendix 1 and Appendix 2, but unfortunately the actual appendices have been mislabelled and are Appendix A and Appendix B. But Appendix 1 is Appendix A and Appendix 2 is Appendix B, etc. So apologies for the error there. At the committee's last meeting then, on the 17th of July, the committee resolved to consider a report at a future meeting with proposed changes to the age limits for licensed vehicles, and also to consider a report at a future meeting with proposed changes to the vehicle identification requirements for private hire vehicles. These are the reasons for the report being brought before the committee today. To assist the committee in considering the request from the taxi trade, we've undertaken a review of the age limits of licensed vehicles and private hire operator signage requirements of our neighbouring authorities, and the information that's displayed on the websites and also in their taxi policies is set out in a table which is attached to Appendix 3, although labelled as Appendix C. I'll just bring that up so we just can show that to the committee. If I can just get to the appendix. So this is Appendix C, and this shows the age limit requirements and operator signage for Blaenau Gwent, Caerphilly, Monmouth, and also Newport City Council, alongside our own. So I know this has been circulated to the committee in advance, so everyone would have had sight of it. But just to kind of talk through it, these the requirements for Monmouthshire and Newport, well, there are no age limit requirements. They refer to Euro standards. Caerphilly and Blaenau Gwent have age limits, so the vehicle has to be under 5 years old when first licensed. Although for work accessible vehicles, Blaenau Gwent will license a new vehicle if it's less than 10, and Caerphilly if it's less than 8. But there appear to be no upper age limits for vehicles, so they'll get re-licensed on merit. So those are the restrictions for, and sorry, just referring back to that appendix. In terms of the operator signage, there's no requirement for neighbouring authorities to have the name of the operator displayed on the licensed vehicle. So just referring back to the report, in view of the requested amendments to the age limits, which are not vastly inconsistent with our neighbouring authorities, it is proposed that the age limit restrictions in the policy are revised as set out in Appendix 4, which is unfortunately labelled as Appendix D. So if I just refer to that. So this shows it shows track changes, just showing how the current age limits could be amended. So it's proposed that the restriction for new vehicles, instead of vehicles having to be under 5 years old when first licensed, that's increased to 8 years old. It's proposed that the restriction on license being transferred after vehicles turned 8 years old is removed, and the reason for that is we look at the suitability of the vehicle, and if it's okay to be licensed, there seems to be little reason why you would prevent a license from being transferred from one proprietor to another, assuming that the proprietor is suitable to hold the license. It's then proposed that the upper age limit is removed, which would mean that a license may be renewed by an officer if the vehicle is in very good condition and the interior and exterior of the vehicle are of a high standard. So it would still be a requirement that any vehicle that's over 8 years old will need to be inspected by an officer before any application to renew a license is granted. With regard to the private hire vehicle signage requirement and the request to remove that, as we only received one request from one driver, it's not proposed that any amendments to this requirement are put forward at this stage. And instead, it's considered that the views of the trade as a whole should be sought before any proposed changes are put forward. So where we are at present, it's the council's policy that vehicles must be under 5 years old in order to be licensed as a new Hackney carriage or private hire vehicle. Then, unless the vehicle is a specialist vehicle, it will not be relicensed after the vehicle turns 10 years old. And the requests from the taxi trade, which in Appendix A show there's an appetite for relaxation of these age limits because of the significant changes to the financial climate over the past few years. The proposed age limits are set out in Appendix D. No proposed changes to the signage requirements are proposed at this stage, and instead it's proposed that the views of the trade as a whole are sought before any changes are put out for consultation. If the committee is minded to make any changes to the policy, full public consultation would be required, and the full and careful consideration of any comments received would need before a final decision is made. And I move to the recommendations, which is section 8 of the report. So those are that the General Licensing Committee agree for consultation to be undertaken on the proposed age limits set out in Appendix or Appendix D, which may be amended as considered appropriate by the committee, and also that the committee agree to consider the views of the taxi trade on the requirement to display operator signage on private hire vehicles at a future meeting. And that's the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Robin. A very informative report. Are there any questions, please? I can't see any hands up. Members, the recommendation asks that members agree for consultation to be undertaken on the proposed age limits set out in the Appendix 4, which may be amended as considered appropriate by the committee. Do we agree to go forward with this?
Yeah, and I agree.
I think that's unanimous. Thank you all. And I think that's the end of the business. We have finished just in time for Norma.